So now you're not just fighting a domestic violence case, you're fighting two cases. One domestic violence and one from the family support court, which is the child support people. So now you're looking for a lawyer for that. So now it's two. And you're already starting from here because you have zero custody of the kids. Maybe you'll get supervised visitation eventually. So now you're really fighting three cases, right? You're fighting domestic violence, you're fighting family support, you're trying to get custody of the kids back. And then if you guys are married, of course, then the divorce stuff is probably going to start. Now you're going to have a separate private family law matter, which is the divorce case. Hey, welcome back. This is Shah. I have a video I want to share with you guys today, and it's a man being served with a temporary restraining order, and he's being forced to leave his house. The reason this is significant to me is because when I worked at a child support agency, this is something I'd see happen a lot. So let's watch this video together and break it down.
I'm being evicted from my house now.
Yeah, immediately, but what we allow you to do is get an overnight bag. All right, so we'll go inside so you can get some of your things.
I have to leave with you?
No, you can drive away.
No. What I'm asking you is, I have to leave right now.
Correct. Yep. So you can go inside, gather up some of your things. We allow you that courtesy. And do you have your car here?
That man is in shock, you know what I mean? And suddenly they come, he has no idea this is coming. And they're even saying it's a courtesy, like they don't even really have to. They can just tell him to leave now with none of his stuff. But they're going to allow him into his own house to pack a bag and then be able to go immediately. Like suddenly you just go from, I'm going to go home and maybe mow the lawn and do some of this, that, see the kids, blah, blah, to you have to leave now.
I do.
And then on your own accord, you can leave here, okay?
So you're going to leave and I can leave after you leave? I just have to leave.
We're going to leave. No, we're going to leave with you. We're going to leave together. Okay. You definitely have to leave today, okay?
Got you.
So what we'll do now, go inside, get some of your things.
You need this back?
What's that?
This.
Nope, that's for you.
This is me.
Yep.
This is me. That's officer and that's officer. Can I see your eyes, please? Is that okay? All right.
Can I see your eyes? I mean, he wants to look into the soul of the person who's doing this. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're police officers. It's their job. It's more so about the courts and the laws behind this that allow this to happen. The officer is merely just the enforcement arm of the state.
My wife filed a false abuse claim against me in order to initiate a divorce, in order to get an advantage over the property that we have. Out of nowhere, she just filed a false abuse claim against me and had me evicted from the house. Women in particular who do this to men are criminals.
So this is why this clip really stood out to me, because I would see this happen a lot at the child support agency. He's talking about property, but when you have kids involved in this situation, it actually really screws you over in two ways. There's getting the advantage over the property, but then there's also getting the advantage of custody of the children. What I would see happen, we call them TROs, temporary restraining order. So what the court would do is it would issue a TRO basically just immediately, you know, once the other person filed the claims of abuse. And what they would do in that TRO is that they would give whoever filed it, usually the mom, 100% legal and physical custody of the kids right off the bat. So dad has to leave the house. Dad automatically has zero custody of the kids because he might be an abuser. I know a lot of these were false because I would watch the case and I'd see a lot of these get thrown out. So the way the process works is, you know, you don't get notified of this until after it's filed, until the cops are in your face telling you to go. But in order to try to protect, you know, an abuse victim, the courts will issue a TRO. Okay, it's a temporary restraining order. And it's automatically going to give the mom the custody, everything. You got to leave. But what they do is they set a court hearing, usually like 4 to 6 weeks out. Okay, so it's a temporary restraining order. Then they set a court hearing. And when that court hearing comes, that's when the court actually hears what's going on and makes a decision on whether or not to uphold the restraining order or to throw it out and basically dismiss it and say, okay, this isn't as bad as we thought. But a lot of the times, you know, that intervening 6 weeks is what really matters. And I mean, if it's anything like the courts in my city, they're probably backed up because there's so many cases. where you're not even actually going to see a court date until like 8 weeks, maybe even longer than that. I mean, COVID was a nightmare for this. And what happens is so now you're sitting here and you're trying to fight a domestic violence case, and you're trying to look for a lawyer for that. But in that interim time between when that court hearing happens, mom goes over to the child support agency and says, hey, I want child support. Then the child support officer, which was me, be like, okay, so what's custody look like? And they'd be like, I have the kids 100% of the time. And they'd show me the TRO. And I'd be like, oh, okay. You got the kids 100% of the time. He has them 0. Let me run these calculations and get this child support case started. So now you're not just fighting a domestic violence case. You're fighting 2 cases. One domestic violence and one from the family support court, which is the child support people. So now you're looking for a lawyer for that. So now it's 2. And you're already starting from here because you have 0 custody of the kids. Maybe you'll get supervised visitation eventually. So now you're really fighting 3 cases, right? You're fighting domestic violence. You're fighting family support. You're trying to get custody of the kids back. And then if you guys are married, of course, then the divorce stuff is probably going to start. Now you're going to have a separate private family law matter, which is the divorce case. Now you're here. You're looking for a place to stay while you're probably still paying the bills at the other house. And now you have to find a lawyer who's going to fight not 1, not 2, not 3, possibly 4 cases for you. And it's going to cost a lot of money. And you're probably not going to be able to afford it. And it was almost like this was like the sort of magic strategy, you know, and I had people tell me this, like this was the formula. People know this is the formula. It's like, as he says, like a lot of people will do that. They will try to get the TRO because it gives them such a leg up in this battle, you know, and then even if it does get thrown out, by the time it does, you're in this new normal now already. And it just makes it a lot harder to deal with everything at once.
They are dangerous. They are criminals. My understanding now is that this is a strategy that many women will employ in court in order to take advantage of their husbands and their property. You say, I should have seen this coming? She did everything she could to keep me from seeing what she was doing. For the men who have to go through this and the children who have to go through this, I feel sorry for you.
I have talked to so many guys that were in this scenario. You know, now they're dealing with the child support case. They're sitting across the table from me. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And it's just that look of shock and just complete, like, it's like living a nightmare. They never could imagine that this would be their new reality. You know, I really felt like Chiron, who was that guy that would ferry, I believe it was Chiron, that would ferry, you know, the souls of the dead in ancient Greek mythology across the river Styx into Hades. It's like they'd come through the doors and I'd be like, all right, get on the boat. I'm gonna I'm gonna take you across the river and we're gonna get you into Hades. You know, like they were now in this underworld. It was just very sad to see.
This is painful. But the only thing that is going to heal this is justice. If you know someone, or if you are someone and this has happened to you, I'd love to hear from you. There needs to be a movement to stop this. There needs to be a movement so that some strong legislation can be put in place to stop this.
Nobody really thinks about this. Like, if you got men's rights guys over here calling for this or certain things, paternity fraud, people just don't think it's going to happen to them. But when it happens to them, suddenly you're at 0 and you're like, how is this even possible? The laws are corrupt, unjust. Like, we need a movement. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's what we've been saying this whole time. It really does go back to the laws. You know, there should be punishments for people who bring false accusations like this because it completely destroys someone's life.
This is criminal.
So I just wanted to share that with you guys and just explain things from my perspective as someone who used to work at the child support agency and would see these kinds of things all the time. And it's really frustrating, you know, and it's something that men need to be at least aware of. It's one thing to change the laws, but it's another thing to be ignorant of the laws. So many people walked into the agency and spoke with me and just had no idea how the system worked. And I don't even fault them for that. I mean, I didn't know how it worked until I started working there. And it took, it would take, and then I became a trainer of there. It would take at least 6 months to get someone fully understanding, well, like halfway understanding of the program. There was this whole education piece in the beginning, just going through the laws. Then there'd be another like 6 months of working on the job. And then at that point, you could say that after a year, you can say they know what was going on. Now imagine if you're a guy right off the street, you don't know anything about lawsuits even, and you get hit in the face with some of this. You're in for a pretty rough time, and it's no surprise that a lot of guys just kind of give up as they're dealing with this, especially when it's your kids, your money and livelihood, and then not to mention the emotional struggle with someone you loved. I mean, who knows? Maybe the new boyfriend's moved in. There's just all these things, and a lot of it is unfortunately ignorance. Men just don't understand until it happens to them. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would look at the situation, and if once they find themselves in it, they would look back and think, how could I ever have signed up for this or to put myself in that position? Anyways, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave your comments down below, and we'll talk more soon. See you on the next one.